Guys, you should be good to go.
All right then, typical question. Hi guys, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hello everyone. So thanks for the invitation. We're excited to be here and to share this session. We will be in about 2 weeks. We'll be in the UK in Farnborough for the SQL Bits. So hopefully, if you enjoy this session, we'll be there. We have some space to connect and to network. We bring you today this session, Mastering Power BI Rapid Development with ChatGPT, and mixing a little bit of the analytics tool and Power BI with the help of AI. Before we introduce ourselves as a common cliche, we want to share a story to get you and to tell you a little bit about how we're going to start this session and how we're going to end. So you can see here 3 different people. One of them on the right side is doing a task completely relying on his own skill. Plus, he can search, he can browse, he can do consult books, consult different things. The second one in the middle is doing a task, but it's personifying, fully relying on AI. And the third one on the left is doing a task, sometimes using its best judgment, sometimes using AI. So what we want also to know, and this has been a common question since the hype of AI during this year, is in which tasks can AI already currently excel and really make us more productive, more efficient, and in which tasks it does not. In which tasks can we activate this AI mode, in which tasks can we use the hybrid mode, and in which tasks are we still better doing the tasks by ourselves. And we also want to try this with Power BI today. For the moment, how can we answer this question? Well, Boston Consulting Group tried to answer this, and they did a study on AI with over 1,500 professionals. They created like a big case study on a consulting firm on the fashion industry. I think it was a shoe-related consulting task, and they had all these consultants making different tasks, like preparing different marketing reports, sales plan, account management, different PowerPoints, etc. All these consulting tasks, and some of them were doing it by themselves. Some of them were using the AI, and some of them were using this hybrid method. Which ones had the best results on doing these general consulting tabs? And so, well, first conclusion is that the people using AI were 25% faster completing tasks, and they could even fulfill 12% more tasks in the same time. The second conclusion is that measuring the global quality of the delivered product by the end of the delivery, the people using AI had 40% higher quality results. And this number was specifically higher incidence in the more junior profiles, because they also had some junior and some more senior people doing the tasks. We put here the link for the article from Harvard Business School. If you are interested, it's a really interesting study. Does this apply to Power BI? Can we leverage Power BI to be faster, to make this 25% faster, 40% higher quality? Let's see. That's what me and Ricardo proposed to try it out and to share with you the non-judgmental conclusions of a set of things that we're going to try out. So, who can this help? Maybe this can help if you are like a SQL or a BI professional and you need to tweak sometimes some M or DAX code, and SQL is your thing, or maybe it's Python, and then you open a Power BI and you need to change something. Well, can it help you? If you are like a Power BI or a citizen developer with a subject matter expertise and you don't have a lot of coding in SQL or Python, can this help you to fulfill that gap? If you don't have a lot of UI or UX skills, building reports, you are a really data oriented, you are a good data engineer, but you don't have the skills, can it help you? And sometimes you are stuck, you need to troubleshoot, you need to do something. Can it help you to do that? These are the types of questions that we're going to try to find out the answers today. So, about us, I'm Pedro Reis. I'm a Microsoft data platform MVP and Microsoft certified trainer. I'm expert leader in data and AI in the same company as Ricardo. I'll let him also to present the company. And I'm the founder. I love user groups. I'm the founder of one of the user groups, which is the Portuguese Power BI and Fabric user group. We also do meetups every day. We actually had one today in the morning. So feel free, if you guys are interested, to just check it out, our program, and also attend from time to time our sessions. I know I do that for the UK groups too. You have my contacts, Ricardo.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Ricardo Santos. Like Pedro said, we work in the same company. We work at Natixis, is a French banking company. It's inside one of the largest groups of banking in France. And I work as an expert leader in big data and business intelligence solutions. So currently I'm working for the architecture of the group, which means I'm designing the solutions on business intelligence and big data tools. Also like to share all of my knowledge. So we do a lot of sessions on the community groups, and I'm also the vice president for the Portuguese Association of Business Intelligence. So we do a lot of events like the ones you are attending now. And certification wise, I've been working with Microsoft for the last 20 years. And I'm also a Microsoft certified solutions expert in data management and analytics. Like Pedro said, here are contacts. Feel free to reach out to us. We'll be next week in the UK. So
In 2 weeks, right? In 2 weeks.
yeah, 2 weeks. Sorry.
So
So
what do
what
we
are we going
propose
to?
today, Ricardo?
Yeah, what are we going to introduce you today? So we decided to, like the session says, define some of the steps that we do with Power BI and try to ask ChatGPT to help us speed up the development of those tasks. So we define a set of tasks that will do the procedure, the process to create a full report on Power BI. So the first one that we did is, of course, ingesting data, trying to put data into Power BI. So we're going to cover some of the data modeling and analysis that we try to use with ChatGPT. Also, we try to create some of the artificial data that we might want to use to do some tests. We also try to generate Power Query code. So we are lazy, we don't want to code. Let's see if ChatGPT can help us create all of the code that we need. The same for DAX measures and CSS, trying to improve the visuals on the report by generating also images, and of course using external tools like the tabular editor. We're trying to create some scripts in tabular editor, also using the libraries on the management of Power BI with the commandlets and PowerShell. And at the end, we'll try to sum up what were the tasks that we tried to do and what were the conclusions that we got for each of these tests. So let's dive into how we did the analysis of the tests. So each one will have a score. So of course, we'll ask ChatGPT for the task that we want to do, and we classify the results that we got from ChatGPT in 3 different kinds of results. So the first one is okay. So it means that we use the entire code like ChatGPT just gave us, and we deployed in Power BI and it worked. Second one is okay. The first result was not so good. We had to fine tune the prompt and ask additional interactions. So, but in the end, it worked. And then there's the last use case where it didn't work. So we had to give up on the test.
Couldn't make it work, right? On the last
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
So let's dive into data modeling and analysis. So we're going to generate a data model and analyze the data model with ChatGPT. I'll give you the word, Pedro.
Sure. So the first test, we're going to try with a couple of examples on generating some data. But before even generating, sometimes you already have some reports. You want just take a look at the model. Someone more junior, imagine, built a model. They want an opinion. Is everything okay? Build some data in the warehouse. Wants an opinion. Can actually ChatGPT, especially with the multi-model capabilities, meaning that you can put an image there, can it help us with that? Can it help us through the code? Let's take a look at some of the things. So first, let's try to ask it to generate a data model. I ask a prompt, an example. I manage a data services firm. Generate a model for this firm and put some prefixes on the fact and in tables. So I'm being very generic, but just to see if it can relate to the type of industry that I'm prompting and generate a suggestion of a data model which could sustain the data for this company. And you can see here is suggesting some fact tables with a prefix, some dimension tables with a prefix, and I also asked it to state the relationships between the different tables in a very common on the BI world, which is a buzz matrix, right? On the requirements gathering and on the organization of BI products. So we can see here, okay, so it created a model. We don't know yet if it's good or not, but it actually created. Um, I want all the relationships because it was a bit lazy and it didn't actually complete all the relationships. Sometimes it happens. I think it wants to save some tokens because we already paid this. We are on the GPT. We are on ChatGPT Plus version, means the GPT-4 version. And this one is on the late January update, the test that we're being run. And now we can finally see, okay, so the buzz matrix, and it's being completed with the rest of the data. Sometimes it doesn't clearly complete. You need to be very specific with a prompt or need to ask it to fine tune. So we are happy. We have this complete sign on the bottom left corner, and we see we are happy it was able to generate a model. Second test we're going to try to do is we have an existing model, and this one I created it on a tool called Vertebello, which means that you can just define the tables and the list of columns and define your model, and it will actually allow you to generate the SQL script to export the script to generate this database that you design. So instead of doing a design and then having to create a code, you design and you can export the code and then run the code in your database and deploy the database schema. So it's a two-in-one tool. You have a trial period, and then it's paid. So I have here, this is a sample database that exists in this tool, and I'm going to sabotage this data model to try to see if it can recognize errors or patterns in this. So what I'm going to try to do is, for instance, you see here on the ID of the product, I'm going to change it, and I'm going to change to the product name in the product table. And on the client table on the right side, I'm going to change the company name. Instead of being a varchar, I'm going to try to change the data type to like a int or something like that. So you can see here now on the product, and I even deleted the relationship between the two tables. I'm going to test now analyzing specifically the product and the client if it can detect these errors in the consistency of the model just with a screenshot, right? We're just using the multimodal capabilities. You have this on GPT. You don't have it yet on the Gemini version, so the Google version of the same product with the chat in the browser. So I plug the screenshot and I ask it, analyze this data model, focus on the product and client tables, because otherwise it would be too extent, the analysis. So I asked it specifically to analyze two tables, assess the model, identify any potential issues with relationships, keys, data types, or table designs. And boom, it throws us an analysis. And you can see here, okay, first case, primary key, the product table has its primary key on the ID, which actually it was not correct. So by the size of the image, it could not recognize that directly. But on the company name, the second case on the red, it recognized that the data type is not correct. It should not be an int, it should be a varchar. So we have a very quick summary. You know, it would take a lot more time taking your personal analysis than just plug it in, right? A screenshot and ask it to do your analysis. And imagine you have a lot of models, you have a lot of things, and you want to run checks. So this can be extremely useful. So I would consider the test is okay. The only problem here was with the resolution of the image. I tried a second time to upload a higher resolution image, and it correctly identified the two use cases and the two errors that we're trying to fix and identify. The second case was I went to Vertebello and I exported the actual SQL script to generate this schema. I imported, here you have the SQL sample that I imported with the design of the database, analyze this and do the same thing, but with a SQL script. And very clearly, it was able to identify that you have a problem on the product primary key and on the company name, the data type. So also successful, very easy to detect these kinds of things with the multimodal capabilities on GPT. We try to do another test. can it be useful to data analysis? So meaning we have a couple of files like CSVs or Excel, etc. In this case, it's Excel files. And I'm going to sabotage also the files and put some blanks, you see there, or some data types like XXX on the unit costs, which are not okay. And I asked it, I upload this Excel file, and I ask ChatGPT to analyze and see if it could detect any potential errors. It threw an error, it didn't work. I actually saved the two sheets in CSV, imported it again, and tried to run the same tests. Also an error, didn't work on this specific test, so this was KO. Nonetheless, some people have experienced doing data analysis with ChatGPT with success. However, from my personal testing experience, it's still very limited, specifically on the Excel data type, on the Excel file type, and also on the number of rows that it can analyze. It can tend to be lazy, and you can have some problems with it. I think it's something clearly that will evolve in the future, but if you have large files and if your files are not well structured, you will run into problems. I wouldn't fully rely on the moment on the tests we done with that. It can still be useful for some use cases. If you have it, share with us. Maybe we can present it at SQL Bits. If you have some example with that, send to us and maybe we can use it for a future session. For our tests, this one was KO. Second section, because we have 8 sections, so we're going to run fast and furious through them. If you guys have questions, just throw it in the chat and we'll mention it when John or Flavio or the organization mention it, or otherwise in the end in the Q&A. Second section is generating artificial data. Why this can be useful if you want to generate a report for your portfolio. It's a very common case. If you are defining a proof of concept, but your data is still classified. If you are using Fabric, right, and Fabric is still not validated and it's not authorized to throw all your real production data there, you can just put some real data on something that is not sensitive and generate just some random data with this. A lot of use cases to generate artificial data for new cases or to complement existing products that you are trying to do wireframes or some mockups or even real cases that you're trying to do while defining the architecture in new products. So let's try to generate directly CSV files. Let's try to generate a script which can by itself run and generate the CSV files. And let's ultimately try to generate a transact SQL script which can generate and populate a database. Does this tree work? Let's take a look. So generate sample CSV files for each of these tables. The ones I had before in the model, we are continuing. Assume just a couple of things. Let me pause. I want to generate dates between 2019 and end of 2023. I want to ask to generate a specific pattern, right? That we had a poor year in 2021 because of COVID, and we had a recovery on 2022. I also wanted to generate with some specific names, right? Because if you are generating like a DIM and populating that, you want to be specific. So I asked realistic American names or customers with a fictitious corporate-like names. You can, imagination is the limit, but if you want to generate artificial data, you can be more specific, and let's see if it actually works with these instructions. So it's analyzing and took an error. Let's try it again. And it's doing a second run. So we see here 2 CSVs were generated, but not the entire data that we asked. This is the point I mentioned sometimes. ChatGPT tends to be lazy. I believe that there is a specifically behavior that was defined on this, but we couldn't get all the files here. So the test was KO. Let's try to do the other thing, which is just generate the code, right? The Python script, which can actually run on our local environment and generate the files. This should be a more controlled test that we can do. Let's try it out. Certainly, I can provide you with a Python script that will generate the CSV files for each table in your data model. And I also asked it to save it in a specific path on a C /consultancy project folder. Okay. So here is a Python script, and it's starting to, you can see here, oh, it's going to use pandas. It's going to apply some parameters like a start and date, etc., some numbers, okay? And it's creating the code. I'll fast forward. And take notice, I could be doing these demos live, but the thing is, first, I would not be able to throw you the summary table because I would be seeing live if it works or not, and I would be needing to test. So I couldn't fulfill a complete set of tests done here. And also, ChatGPT still takes a little bit each time that you prompt it. For instance, right now, Gemini with 1.5 version is quite faster on some tasks, although it still doesn't have the multimodal capabilities like generating images, so on. But Gemini is faster for some tasks, but on ChatGPT you can store the text and so on. But it takes some time to run. That's why sometimes I will fast forward the tests that we already done. So, okay, saving the script in a file. And the script only generated 3 tables. Even in the script, it was lazy. It didn't generate the entire script for the whole thing. I'm trying to be more specific or more demanding towards our requests. And now it states that we will include all the dimension and fact tables. So going forward, here we have our script in our folder on C. I imported it to Visual Studio Code. You can see the script here. And now we can run this script here in our terminal, and it's going to run it. And it states that all CSV files have been generated. And here we have these CSV files. We can see that the tables have a certain space, at least I see in the fact. So the assumption is that it worked. We opened the result of these files, the CSV files that was generated. You have here like the team customers, the team employees, and the fact cells, and they are actually populated. You can see here, right? The customer names, like we asked, the employees with the type of names that we asked, and the fact table is also populated with results. What didn't work, you remember that I asked to have a bad year in 2021 and a good year in 2022. On this specific test, it failed. I did a couple more tests outside, and uh, one time it didn't work, other time worked. Okay, so if you are very more specific regarding the prompt, it can work and generate these patterns in your data. But as you can see here, just plugging into this fact table in Power BI 2022, we didn't have a growth. So the test was successful, but with some let's say first it was lazy. It actually, when requesting to prompt, it completed successful. Just the pattern, it didn't work properly. But let's give it a green on this one. It was on the threshold, but let's give it a green for this one because I think this is really helpful. Final test. Let's ask it to generate this specifically with a SQL, because if I want to generate files and I don't have a good way to upload them, if you are going to upload to a blob storage, but you don't have direct access to upload it, and you actually have the capability to deploy SQL code in a database, maybe it's easier for you to generate the sample data directly there, right? Or another use case, if you want to connect Power BI and you don't want to import table by table or with multiple sources, if you actually can put your generated tables directly in a SQL database, then you just go there, you click the tables you want, and you bring all the data at once to Power BI. So there are a lot of reasons why it could be interesting. However, generating artificial data with a SQL than with Python is more limitative in terms of the available functions to able to do this process. But let's try it nevertheless. Okay, and it's creating the scripts to generate our tables. Let's fast forward. And we have here the create table statements and so on. And the inserts then with the data. However, you start to see that it's being lazy. It's giving me the structure of the insert, but it's not actually completing all the values that I requested in the insert. So this is the main problem at the moment. Even in the paid version, it's a trend that happens, but it's giving you the correct structure, and you can prompt it again to request it. I need a complete data generation, and I could be very much more specific. I'm just trying to send a simple prompt to see if it is sufficient to accomplish the task or not, or if we need to refine the prompt. So here it is, and it's going to generate the script. I prompted it again. I needed the SQL script which generates the complete output tables in a SQL Server database. I don't have access to local storage. I need to generate the output directly in the database. This is the case I was mentioning. Also, there was an error in the first time I imported it, and now I asked it to ensure that the primary keys auto-increment. So it's writing again the new code. Let's try to import. I have here a database, and I'm going to try to import here the code that it was generated by ChatGPT. Let's try to execute it. Okay, successful. That's good. Let's see what we have now in the tables. Let's refresh it. So I just copy paste. I didn't look at the script, and let's see what happened. So we have some of the tables there created. Let's go back. But it created a structure, but it didn't complete the inserts. So what we're going to try to do is also not only just creating the structure, but also actually inserting the data, right? So yeah, error, you see here, an error cannot insert a null value into columns. So we have an error. Let's try to iterate. Imagine you are a very junior person and you don't know what this error means. You copy the error, plug it in ChatGPT again, and try to do it, this iterative process that Ricardo described. We try to do it, adjust the script to this error. It's going to generate a new script. We go back, we try to insert again, and finally, you see here, rows affected, and it worked. And I think I can, this table, you see here, it didn't work. It didn't populate the table. I have here another table on another test that I did that actually populated the table with the data. So result on this test, okay, with some iterations, meaning that it will not work perfectly, but if you go back and forth and you adjust your prompts, it will eventually generate your artificial data with Transact SQL. Not perfect. I think the Python version is better, but if you have this limitation on uploading files, then maybe the T-SQL can be an easy, quick win for you for your case. Third demo, generating Power Query code, right? Because sometimes you don't have access to the database, or there are a couple of things that are easier to generate directly in Power Query or to maintain. Or if you are more a data analyst and not data engineer profile, you can also take advantage of Power Query to do a couple of things. We're going to try to generate like a calendar because it's a very common case with Power Query. Expand this calendar with some custom functions or columns, and then do a translation action because, well, maybe you guys being on the Birmingham user group, you use a lot the English, but sometimes if you work like with a French company, if you work with a German company, something like that, this is a very common use case, and you even might be required to have different columns with the translations in your models, not only the headers, the actual data. There is a lot of things that can be said about it. And can GPT also help us on that? So first of all, let's generate the dim date table in Power Query. And I'm going to ask it a column just with the English holidays. So we're going to generate the Power Query code and try to enrich it with just a custom column that needs to consult and know which are the English holidays. So it's generating the code, and then it's going to add a new column with the English holidays. Let's see if it works. Generate, it was lazy. I want to generate the entire code. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to understand the process. I just want to code and copy paste into Power BI. That's what I want. So here is the new code. Let's try to put the code here. As you can see, I create a blank query. I try to copy it, plug it here, replace. Oh, no syntax errors. That's a good sign. Let's see now if it actually generates our dim date table. Okay, So we have here the team date, but we have an error on the English holiday. And of course, I asked it also to generate is a working day column, which means if it is not a weekend and is not a holiday, then it's a working day. This error that is being thrown here is actually an error that the problem, let's see if I can run it again. What happened is it exemplified for me the code to it just gathered the two first English holidays, like the 1st of January and another one, but didn't complete the table and prompted like you see 1, 2, 50. And of course, when I plug it in on Power Query, that throws an error because I don't actually have the full list of holidays. This was the reason of the error. I asked it to reiterate, to fill the complete list. I copy paste it here, and you can see here. I asked it to generate working day, not in yes or no, but in numbers like 1 or 0. I asked it to generate a code. Let's do another test, plug it in Power Query, and let's see now if it's working with the working day and the weekends. Is holiday, is weekend, and finally it's working. So actually this screen is not correct, it's yellow, so it means that it works with some iterations. Okay, so we finally got our working days, our calendar, and with the working days and the application of specific holidays for a country. I want now to enrich it with a custom column, which means that I want to have the number of working days year to date in the Power, not in DAX, but in Power Query. So I asked it to fill all this, and let's see if it worked. It didn't work. Some problem. Let's copy paste the same error, going back to ChatGPT, and let's see if it can reiterate the error. Power Query. And without, in auto GPT mode means copy pasting from one side to the other without thinking about it. Let's see if it worked and generate the working days. Unfortunately, not. You can see here that when the year ended, it didn't reset the counter of the working days to 0, which that was unfortunate. Going back and forth and explaining the errors, eventually with the same error, just copy pasting, going to GPT and coming back to Power Query, eventually it worked. And you can see here, after the year resets from one year to the other, now the working days year to date, it was correctly generated. So test okay with iterations too. It's something very interesting. If you don't know a lot about Power Query, and sometimes these index functions can be complex. Now, the final test I was saying, translate my column names to French and return the complete script without comments. I'm asking this because ChatGPT will explain me what it did. I don't want it. I just want the code. I don't want your comments, please. Just send me the code and I'll copy paste it to the editor. So here it is. I will just copy paste the new code with the translation. And here you have the année, the date, numéro de mois, and so on. It completely translated everything directly in the script without any need. I think there was maybe a small error there, but well, in general terms, it worked, and I think this can be quite useful for some cases. Number 4, generating DAX measures. So because we think that we talked about Python, we talked about SQL, we talked about Power Query, M, and now we're going to talk about DAX. One of the cases we're going to try to do is imagine that you want to create this type of buttons like you see here on the state, like the ideate, execute, etc. Currently in Power BI, in the conditional formatting, you can fill a cell according to a color and a condition, but you need to fill the entire square of the cell in a table or in a matrix. And if you want to create this button shape look and feel, it's a bit more difficult, and you need maybe to use some SVG or other type of visual to do this. You have here, there is a repository from Kerry Kolosk, which is very interesting. Already has some pre-made samples like the one that I posted here. And what we're going to do is, without using exactly the samples that are there, we're going to try to ask ChatGPT to help us to create this effect on creating like a button with the states according to a specific parameter on the formula. So, first task. Create a DAX measure to return an SVG image with a button-like appearance and displaying the text "not OK" on it. I'm first hard coding it, like displaying just the shape with "not OK," and then later on I'm going to ask it, according to the value, to update it to "not OK" or to OK in green. So I'm going doing this step by step instead of asking to do all at once. And to create a DAX measure that returns the SVG image, blah, 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 you will need a combination of DAX and SVG markup. So it's suggested here the code. And if I plug it in a Power BI measure and I test it, it didn't work properly. But one thing that is very interesting about GPT is sometimes asking it to do the entire task from scratch doesn't work well. But if I already provided with a working example, just something using returning an SVG image, and I ask it, can you take in consideration of this example, can you adjust it for the button that I asked? In that case, it will much more easily be able to complete the task. So now you can see, and basically it will display the measure. It didn't work also. It didn't work because I needed it also to specify a specific column, and I asked it again, try it again, and finally you can see here the screenshot that it generated this DAX expression, which throws this result. You see, if it's lower than 5, we have a red button with not OK, and if it's greater or equal than 5, it creates this green button with OK text in white on top of it. So it works with some needing some inspiration. ChatGPT also needed some inspiration and some working examples in order to do the code. This is the reason because ChatGPT is trained on existing data, and sometimes these examples are a bit more recent, and there is not so much documentation on top of SVG, etc. So if you feed it with some examples, it will be more easy. If it couldn't find yet enough data to be able to produce the correct result from its training threshold. So this is an example. It worked with some iterations. Then I also want to try something which is sometimes maybe you guys have seen something like there is a car image, and when you hover on it, the car image expands or decreases in a Power BI report. And I wanted to try to enrich a DAX formula with the CSS. So DAX measure for Power BI that embeds an image from a column and scales it to 2 times the size using CSS inside of a DAX measure. Okay. And we have a football player, which is Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm suspicious, I'm Portuguese, but let's try to enlarge this image of Cristiano Ronaldo. Oops, too fast. And I'm using this HTML content light because it's one of the HTML visuals which is certified. This is the one that I'm using it in order to display the image. So you can see here, this formula here with the measure is able to iterate and to scale it to twice and return it to the original size. Now I'm going to ask it, can you adjust the animation to the following? Move it right and change it to 50% size, scale it to twice the size after 1 second, then moving it back left and see if it works. So, and then I'm going to also ask to adjust the code. If it's Ronaldo, this is going to do a straight line. If it's Neymar, it's going to be around the screen going, a little bit crazy. So if it's Cristiano Ronaldo, here we have our image. I didn't do anything. ChatGPT completely changed the code and did this with the CSS on top of the measure. And if it's Neymar, we changed it in the slicer, and now you can see the image going everywhere just with the formula that we plugged it in. And so the test was okay, and we were able to add some CSS on top of your images. If you want really to highlight some of your reports, this can be a neat trick to do it. Fifth test. This one I'm going to be very short on it because we tried to also create the report imaging for the reports, like the background, the banner, some things like that. We had this intention of doing it, but let's see how it goes. One point is Unishard characters. If you need like some small icons in your report, and has anyone here from the audience sometime used like a Unishard character from this? If you raise your hand, did you guys use it? Something like this? No? You have here, this is a list that you can just plug it in Excel or in Power BI. You can use Unishard, you open parentheses, and you put the code of one of these images, and it will replace and create a special character. Instead of being like a letter, it will give you an icon, like the alert icon, the banner, arrow up, arrow down, something like this. And so I want to create like a DAX formula, which shows me like a star rating from 0 to 5. Let's see if it can do this. And it sees here, I'm going to try to create this measure and fill if it's 3 stars filled and 2 stars blank. If it's 4 stars filled, 1 star blank. And it worked. It was able to generate a measure. And then I'm going to ask it, can you replace this by an alert icon? Put the number of alerts corresponding to the rating. And here I have the alert sign. It was able to identify from those huge lists what is exactly the Unishard character for the alert. This means that if you want like a special character for your report, like I want a flag, I want a star, instead of having to search the list, you can just ask GPT, give me the Unishard character that returns like a down arrow, and it will find it for you, which is very useful. So the test was okay, and you can create a measure with this. Can you generate a banner for my report? I want the same company, the data services company. I want to generate a 1000 by 200 services banner. Well, the look is okay, the look and feel, but it's not, I cannot just copy paste and put it in a report like this, right? Because it's skewed and it's not in the good format. I try it again, and I am very specific about the sizing. It doesn't work. I try it again. And I start from the scratch. Give me a 3 by 2 black rectangle. Then generate a frame with a specific size, the same size as Power BI report, 1280 by 720. And I'm asking it to pixel from coordinates, from Cartesian coordinates, from 00 to 201,280 square. It doesn't work. So this part, it can generate images, creative images for your backgrounds, for your icons, etc. But really, images that don't have the 3 default sizes of GPT, it doesn't work well. So you need like full size images on 4 by 3 or 3 by 4 standard sizes. Otherwise, it won't work well. So test KO, I'm just sweeping through this. It won't work well. You have other types of tools to be able to generate like banner-sized shapes with AI, but not specifically on ChatGPT at the moment. Final test, I'm going to try to Power BI theme, which means the colors, the generic colors that you have in your report, right? You build one report, then you're going to build another one. You want the same company colors on this report. So I downloaded from BIBP, Power BI Theme Generator. I downloaded the custom theme, and then I'm going to try to adjust this theme to another type of theme. So let's try it out. I'm going to first create an image and ask it to convert it to base 64 so that I can embed directly the image in a theme, okay? Because I cannot upload the image to a theme file, which is a JSON file in Power BI. If I want to hard all the reports in a new page that I add in a report to have the same image, I need to encode this image in a base 64 and put it in the JSON. So first I asked it just to generate a sample image. Here I have it for a green energy company. And then I converted it to base 64. I asked it to put it in a Power BI theme, but it didn't work. So what I did, like the example on the DAX, I give it a working theme, and I asked it, can you replace on this working code the new code? Well, the base 64 was too long, and it didn't work. So it failed. Okay, So what I'm going to do next is I already have the theme file that I downloaded before from BIBB. I have it here in the JSON format, and I'm going to ask it to change the main color from blue to yellow. And throw me back the JSON file with the update. And certainly, here is a downloadable link for the updated. I download it. I open it. Look, it's yellow. So just with the prompt, it changed the colors of the main colors of my report from bluish to yellow. Okay, so test is successful. But you see here on the bottom right, my table is not in yellow. So if I want some of the specific elements, visual elements that are not defined in the theme, I can also add it, ask it, can you also add like the definition of a table or a matrix in the theme? So I asked it to do that, and I give it a working version of a table definition for a theme. Here I have the code from the David Eldersveld repo. You have here the link on GitHub, and I give it and ask it to adjust it. And then you can see, well, the table became yellow, just not in a good way because maybe you weren't too specific about the prompt and it didn't work properly. But in terms of actually functioning, it shows that it has potential to work. We just need to be a bit more specific about what we need to ask it on top of it. What about code, Ricardo? We did a few tests too, right?
So do you want me to do the share, or should
Yeah,
we?
maybe you can take over,
Okay.
Ricardo, from here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do my share. Okay. Let me know, you guys, if you see my screen. Is it working?
Can see?
Yeah. Okay, so how many of you have ever worked with external tools like Tabular Editor on Power BI? I know I use it a lot, almost every day. So I know the importance of being able to work really well with Tabular Editor, and it speed ups the DevOps that we try to do on most of the usage that we do to change the name. So first test that we try to do is just ask ChatGPT to generate the C# code on Tabular Editor to create measures from columns. So a simple prompt, and it worked. He gave me the C# code. He gave me the exact code that I should use to just create new measures from the columns that I have from my database or for my data set. The problem is that in here, he really gave me the C# code. And if you guys know, Tabular Editor does not accept C# code. It has its own proprietary code. It uses Tom language. So it means, okay, we have to specify with ChatGPT, okay, you gave me the correct C# code, but I want the one that works with Tabular Editor. So I just changed the prompt a little bit. It warned me that we have some changes on the code. But then I redo the test and I say, okay, I want the C# code, but give me to work with the snippets inside Tabular Editor. And it changed the code that he gave me. So you see that no longer has the using and the kind of import of the libraries that we need to use C#. So it gave me the code exactly like we have for the snippets. So just to give you a base, this test was really, we know that if you go to the page of Tabular Editor to sqlbi.com, you'll have a lot of patterns of things that you can use to create automatic work on your data set, on your Power BI model. We know that it's really rich, the website, but we really wanted to test the code on ChatGPT because, okay, for the simple things, you can go to sqlbi.com, but then when you want some complex DevOps changements, creation of measures, you have to know how to work with it. So like we said in the beginning, all of the tests that we did so far is to speed up someone that does not have the experience to work with this. So the idea was really, okay, first use case that we're going to do more complex. I want to just give me all of the rename of a specific table on my data set. I want you to include the table name and the underscore behind the name of every column. So I asked this to ChatGPT, gave me the code, a correct snippet. You have to remember that we have to ask to create a snippet and not a C# code. But as you can see, it gave me exactly the code that we need to change the column name for all of the table that we have there. So you just go to tabular editor, you go into the C# script, you copy paste it. It will ask you for the variable, of course. The opportunities is the name of the table, but it really worked. He went into all of the columns that I wanted to change, and he added the table name and the underscore behind the measures. So yeah, this works well. Let's see if I can rename just my measures, and I want to put an underscore and the table name behind it. So now I want to specify not the columns, but the measures. And so everything, as you can see, detected with tabular editor what were the kind of columns that we have in our table. And just by running a C# script, you can rename all of your measures. A good example is when we put AVG on the measure name, and then someone asks what is AVG, and we have to replace AVG to average. So this is really simple to do this in the entire model. You don't have to go table by table to change the name. You can just run a C# script that will change you all of the names. And so what we did is let's try to use as much as code as we can from the snippets. And all of the tests that we did, it really worked okay. Sometimes it needs a little prompt because it needs variables. It needs the table name, or if you want to use a measure or columns. But overall, all of the code that we use for the C# on Tabular Editor worked really well, and ChatGPT was able to provide all of the code working really well. So we didn't delve into too much tests on the C# snippet because everything that we tested gave out the code correctly. So let's change to a new type of coding. Who has used PowerShell APIs for Power BI? Let's see. Okay, 2, 3. Okay, good. So the use case is I use my PowerShell with jobs to deploy my Power BI files automatically into my workspace. So we have deployment pipelines. We are able to publish the report using APIs, but you always have to make sure if there is already a Power BI report with that name, right? If you use it with Power BI Desktop, okay, you can publish directly. What happens when you are working on Power BI projects? What happens when you are working with SharePoint locations? You want to use GitHub or Bitbucket? So this will allow you to programmatically export everything that you have on the workspace just to document or to inventorize or to create some sort of warehouse where you store all the versions of the Power BI report. So I asked ChatGPT to use the Power BI commandlets. I told him what was the name of the API that I want to use to give me the list of the artifacts that I have in my workspace. And he gave me the code to use it in PowerShell. Remember that you have to install the module to work it. So it means that the first line that he gave me was a warning saying, okay, you have to install this module to be able to connect to the Azure website with your own credentials. You can also change the way you connect with the code. I tried asking ChatGPT to give me a token or to give me a different kind of authentication, and it just changed the code and it allowed me to really use the way we connect. So I was able to really do the connection and read all of the artifacts. And just to show you really quick, this was done yesterday. I did a live prompt where I asked ChatGPT to give me the code to publish my Power BI report from my Bitbucket folder. And so he gave me the entire code. It's a bit complex. I don't want to detail this, but just to tell you that it deployed successfully. It connected to Power BI and just went into my Bitbucket to the folder that I specified and published the report that I wanted to export. So overall, just to tell you that all of this code with the commandlets works really well with ChatGPT. I think we can do the same to give you an idea that all the tests that we generate with this API really gave the code really well. So you can use this with complex commands and even create pipelines where you can, for example, deploy it, refresh it, and move to another workspace. So the idea is that when you have a pro license, you can really use the commandlets to manage all of your deployments. Okay, this test was really good. And let's talk about all of the tests that we have been listening to so far. You want to resume, Pedro?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Ricardo.
So as you can see, we tried to create a table with all of the tasks that we try to do. So this will give you an overview of the kind of tasks that you can really use ChatGPT to speed up the way you deploy and you develop. So in the beginning, we tried to do the same test that the BGSC group tried to do. Can we increase 25% of our performance when we start developing Power BI? And for us, the idea is that for simple tasks, if you're a junior, if you're trying to speed up the time of deployment, it will really help you. It will give you the boost, those 25% boost that you need to the productivity. Although when you go into complex treatments, when you go into complex execution developments, you really need to fine-tune the ChatGPT, or you need some more knowledge to get into the specifics. So we gave you a results summary here, a board where you can really analyze what you need with the interaction, what didn't work, and what you can use with everything that we just shared on the results. We didn't mention this, but Pedro was doing the paid version. I was doing the free version. And so the code worked really well on the free version too. Okay, you don't need the subscription, to use ChatGPT 4. And by the way, if you guys really want to use ChatGPT 4, you can install the Copilot application on your mobile, and you can use the Microsoft tool with ChatGPT 4 for free on the mobile. So some of the takeaways. Well, as you were able to see, it's far from perfect. We still don't have a perfect prompt, an answer to give you the code entirely. But as the LLM models advance, the way we speed up the processing, the responses are more fine-tuned. We think it's really possible to go into a point where you will have a working version with all of the interactions that we did, with all the requests that you do, with a good results. Also, we confirm that if you are starting to work now with Power BI, ChatGPT can really help you speed up the initial learning curve, so that you can some of the steps that you do, like changing the column names or the table names, or to change the column names from the SQL Server to more a business model. It can really help you to speed up those developments. Also, like I said, with the advancement on the new tools for the LLM algorithms, ChatGPT will start answering much better for this. And with the Power BI project format, because we are able to manage more components of the Power BI, we'll be able to to have more capabilities to deploy and to manage the way we analyze the projects. So as you were able to see, all of the coding on ChatGPT was really good. But when we introduce the Copilot here, and I think this will be something that will be discussed in the next weeks, when Copilot will be available, you'll see Copilot inside Power BI, and the way you'll start working with DAX and Power Query and management the services and the Power BI deployments will be really different once you start using the ChatGPT or start using the Copilot. Okay, I think that's it. You want to add something, Pedro?
Yeah, so one thing is, as you see in the slide that Ricardo showed, the evolution, for instance, on the LSAT, which is a typical test with logic and maths, etc. ChatGPT 3.5 was able to score 40%, and GPT-4 is over 80%, which means that some of the things you see here, which were not possible to do immediately without iterations, were not possible. We are talking about few months, 1 year, 1 year and a half, to become able to do certain of these tasks. So it's important to keep that in mind. We'll keep testing this. If you guys have suggestions on other tests that could be interesting, if you have other use cases, things that you think it would be interesting, send us a message. If you send us a message right now, we might still be able to include it in our next presentation at SQL Bits. If not, if you want to meet us there and to have a chat, have a coffee, a beer, something like that over there, feel free to meet with us there. We'll be delighted to network and
Absolutely.
to catch up with you guys.
It'll be a pleasure. Thank you, guys. Any questions?
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, Ricardo. For the applause, please. Guys, do you have any time for questions? Do you have any time for questions, Pedro?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so open the floor for any questions then. Well, I'll start. In the beginning, Pedro, you said that ChatGPT was quite lazy. It's almost like a person. So do you think there's some applications where you'd not recommend using it at all in favor of some others?
So the part of being lazy, I give an example. The one example that upsets me a lot is when I ask it for the document generation. And if I want to have something and it cannot put it directly in the window, but if I ask it to put it in a Word document, it doesn't give me a Word document which has more than 2 pages.
It's quite limited on the results.
Yeah, and I can understand. While it's not completely documented, it's a way of control in order to do savings on the tokenization, etc.
Right.
So it's just that point. But I believe that tokens become cheaper as cloud computation capacity increases. I think this will be a non-problem as we continue to progress, as everything we see on data right now. We don't have a lot of problems with the big data. We have a lot of things with the small and distributed data, right?
Yeah. Any other questions, anyone?
And where do you kind of see this going in like the next 2 to 3, maybe 5 years, in terms of sort of the impact of sort of the AI being able to do a lot? And I think it sort of is seeming, well, clearly it's very, very powerful.
Yeah. Well, we had some, well, in the beginning, we were a banking company. So, of course, we could not use ChatGPT inside the company. So just to give you an overview, when OpenAI was open, we could not use it inside the company, in our own laptops to work. And so the need to use it was so big that we developed our own internal ChatGPT. So we have a project called Maya, where we developed our internal ChatGPT. That being said, and me and Pedro have been able to watch many of the presentations on Fabric, for example, we already see that by the end of the year, it will change completely the way you develop. We saw entire pipelines of ETL, of data being loaded into databases without any code, just using Copilot prompts. It would create a pipeline, it would create incremental refresh, it would define the columns that you need to have as keys. So it's really advancing really fast. I can tell you it's not a matter of 5 years, it's just a matter of months. Once computing gets more generalized, we'll see this in everyday tools.
And at the same time, Ricardo, right? What becomes more important? I tell you, when all this news and everything on the AI came up, for instance, I specifically discussed with the team that I work. What does it mean for you guys? And from my point of view, this means that what is more important is the core skills, meaning the data modeling skills, the ability to select a platform where this runs. Because this type of technology is not exclusive, like we tested with ChatGPT, but all the different main providers are doing the same direction, and you can run this on different platforms. So what the key skills, data modeling skills, understanding how to deploy this, to create the environment, setting up, on a cloud platform, the capabilities in order to deploy this. Doing the tweak of a chart, changing the colors, changing, just the labels. We are coming to a point where it's more automatic. You don't need to know all the different properties and come up updated with that. You don't need to know maybe the Power Query formulas. DAX is becoming easier. SQL is becoming, and Python are becoming automated. You need to know the core skills and the platform management skills linked to the product. And you need to know how to code people, right? Because we used to say we spend more time programming people than we spend more time doing code sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Mine is just a comment.
Yeah.
Just wanted to appreciate, both of them for all that we have seen, all that I have seen. It's been very eye-opening, and I thought this was really good. Thank you.
Very good feedback, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Very appreciated.
I do have another question. You did mention Copilot there a couple of times. Have you done any testing with Copilot so far? And if so, do you notice any difference against ChatGPT?
Do you want to share, Pedro? I've done a lot of tests, but it was more to explore the Copilot usage on big data systems. So on using big computes to make sure it accelerates the results. Pedro is more on the productivity part.
I can share a specific case, which is why do I have a ChatGPT Plus subscription and I don't use specifically Copilot, which I also use GPT-4? Well, basically, when I return to the ChatGPT, my chat is still there active and I can proceed on it. So sometimes in testing this session, I try a few things. I create my data model. Okay, I exit sometime. Tomorrow I come back there and I continue that and it's saved and I can customize it. I can customize even. There are certain properties that you can say regarding the style of writing, the pre-known knowledge. I can import some files which can be used on every new session that I open it. This is very specific, and right now, if you go to Gemini or if you go to Copilot on the browser or with Bing, you still don't have that much flexibility as you have with the GPT-4 on the ChatGPT Plus subscription.
Right, got it. Thanks.
But I use it in the mobile every day, okay? So
right.
So full disclosure, I do work for Microsoft, but really differentiating between them is that ChatGPT will guarantee they will use the data you input for retraining their models. And Microsoft guarantee that they will. That's the important area.
Just to figure out that, guys, we have someone that knows inside out. We're still Microsoft. Yeah. Thanks for that contribution.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hey, any other comments? Any other questions? We'll let the guys go. Yeah.
Just a silly one. The other day I was trying to use Copilot to generate a calendar table with DAX, and it kind of gave me a line of code, and I tried it on Power BI. It turns out that specific function it is using, it doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah.
So basically, it's kind of making up, although it looks legit, but it just doesn't work. So I haven't actually met this problem in ChatGPT before, although I was told that they're basically using the same or similar models behind them. So it's kind of strange, but
it's the example that I showed you with commandlets. If you don't specify the name of the library that you want to use, it will give you the code. It will show you exactly the same code, but it will not work because it doesn't know that library. So you have to specify exactly, okay, I want to create a table in DAX with this kind of measure. Or because ChatGPT can also give you the code to build a table in Power Query, and the language is different. So there are a lot of possibilities, and what we tested is that with fine tuning on the prompt, you can achieve the results. but you have to have the core, the basis knowledge that Pedro said. Okay, I have to use this kind of language. I have to use this kind of API. But ChatGPT will understand that if it's trained, because there are some things that are before the 2022, and some things are really new now. So we'll not understand some of the things.
We recorded these tests, which means that we know that if we run the same test a second time, likely the results will not be the same. And this, because this is a generative, large language models are generative, meaning that, and when I pause, imagine that you throw something on a generative AI, it's going to complete from what it already said, right? Because it's going to try to guess which is the likely word that is coming next in a sequence. And even in our natural language, if I'm saying this, the next few words that I'm going to state are already conditioned by what I already said so far. And so sometimes this is a concept that it's the hallucinations concept in generative AI. It happens sometimes with like a 3% frequency or something. It can hallucinate, and likely the DAX function that was imagined is part of an hallucination. And maybe if you run it next time, it won't hallucinate on that point. Yeah.
I had an API hallucination the other day. It generated an API endpoint that didn't exist. It looked real. And I tried to
look
run
legit,
it.
right? Yeah.
I guess the good news is not out of a job just yet. So there's still news.
No. And because, for example, DAX is based on a lot of Excel functions, some of them that don't exist in DAX, you will try to replicate the same functions that exist in Excel. For example, I got sometimes the lookup value. It's a function that uses that's in Excel, but we cannot use it in DAX. There's a different type of function. So sometimes you get this confusion also. So, but like Pedro said, if you re-ask or if you correct the previous answer, it will learn and it will give you the correct answers with some interactions.
Cool. Any final questions? Let's take one more. The guys go. Anything else, anyone? Cool. Pedro, Ricardo, thank you very much. It was much appreciated.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Guys here in the room, to your right, pizza. So feel free to go for it. Pedro, Ricardo, hope you can join us at some point and get some pizza with us here as well.
We would love to have the pizza and the beers, hopefully too, but maybe next time. Absolutely. I hope you guys enjoy.
You guys.
Catch up.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.